So this morning we've dragged ourselves out of bed, which I think Hannah found pretty difficult this morning, to be honest, and we've come down to Jökulsárlón, which is the Iceberg Lagoon, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Look at it, it's amazing. We've got this lovely flat calm water, and yesterday the whole day was just completely drenched. There was no visibility, it was wet. We did actually come down here and I managed to take a few photos of some seals actually, but yeah, it wasn't much good for actually trying to get down here and take some nice landscape photos or photos of the ice, because there was no light at all. So we got ourselves up really early this morning, and it looks like we might get quite a nice sunrise, hopefully. Fingers crossed, but the sky's a little bit clearer anyway. Well, okay, the sky's a lot clearer than it was yesterday. And it's just beautiful. We've got the flat calm water and the icebergs sort of floating on the water. And I've had a little bit of a wander around just trying to find some compositions. We've actually not come to the main car park at this site. The main car park's further around the coast. We've parked at a car park a little bit further up where hopefully it's a bit quieter. But also I think in terms of where the sun is rising, the sun's going to be rising over there. I think that being situated on this sort of part of the lagoon is going to benefit us in terms of sunrise. And also we have these wonderful mountains behind us as well, which I'm hoping I'll be able to use as a bit of a backdrop for some of the images. So the first image which I've settled upon was this one here, where we've got this pointy iceberg. And I've been struggling a little bit because there's a flat calm water, but I didn't want too long an exposure. Oh, sorry, I didn't want too short an exposure because there is the odd ripple. I've also got a duck that's being a bit of a pain and creating ripples in the water. So I kind of want that water to look smooth. So I want to have a reasonably long exposure, but obviously all of these lumps of ice are floating around, so they're moving. So I've actually not been able to go for too long an exposure. So I've just got the polarizing filter on the lens, which is just helping to remove some of the glare on the water, and it's also adding a little bit more interest into the sky as well. Yeah, so I've actually had to bump the ISO up from 100 to 250, because when I had it at 100 we were looking at about a 5-second exposure, and that was too long, so the ice was just blurred because the ice is moving around. So I bumped the ISO up to 250. We're at f11 ISO 250, and then it's so that's giving me about 1.5 second exposure, which I'm hoping is going to be fast enough to freeze the ice. But if not, freeze the ice, freeze the motion of the ice. The ice is obviously already frozen. Hopefully freeze the motion of the ice, and we'll see how we get on. But yeah, I might have to bump the ISO up to maybe 400 if that's still too slow and I'm still getting a bit of blurred movement in the ice. We'll see how we get on. But one of the challenges here is that you sort of find an organisation of ice that works quite nicely in a composition, and then literally 30 seconds later the ice is all moved again. So that's a little bit of a challenge. Even though there's no wind, there is a current that moves through this lagoon, and it's just moving that ice around. So yeah, I think it's going to be a case of kind of maybe, as soon as you find a composition, take the image quite quickly if you can, because it's not going to last long. But I'm going to take this image, and we'll see how this turns out. So I'll show you what we've got going on here. So we've got the it just looks amazing. We've got the main kind of peak of this sort of triangular iceberg, sort of floating on the right hand third there. Anyway, we'll take this image now before the ice moves. How's it going to come out? Yeah, so the bright exposure is obviously a bit too bright, but if we flick back to the other ones, yep. Yeah, actually, I think that this sort of shutter speed is working okay. Yeah, I do like this image. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have a little walk up here and see if I can get another composition with the mountains behind the ice, and hopefully in a few minutes we'll get a bit more colour in the sky, because if there's a bit of pink going off, that would be amazing. So I've just wandered a little bit further along, and the reason I wanted to come to this spot is we have some really nice blue icebergs with mountains in the background, and this is kind of what I wanted to achieve, is mountains forming the backdrop behind the ice, and I really like the blue of these particular icebergs. I did just take a quick image just now because there's a nice little iceberg which had a kind of hammer-shaped head on it, but it sort of floated off now. I had to be quite quick because the ice is moving actually quite surprisingly quickly. So I managed to snap off an image just as that was floating past. But yeah, it would be nice if there was a bit more colour in the sky. It is still a bit grey and the sun has now come up, so I was expecting maybe a little bit more interest in the sky. But, oh, there's a seal. I don't know if that'll come out in the camera. There's a seal actually swimming between the two icebergs. But yeah, I'm going to keep sort of wandering around and see if I can get some more images. I think that's us done now here at the Iceberg Lagoon, and now we're going to pop over to the Iceberg Beach, which I'm sure you'll be familiar with as landscape photographers, but it's basically where all the icebergs from this lagoon empty out into the sea and then get washed up onto the beach, so you have the black sand with lumps of ice on it. So we're going to head over there now. Hopefully the sky is going to become a little bit more colourful by the time we get over there, but if not, I'm sure we'll get some nice images anyway. Wow, so we came over here to the black sand beach where we have the icebergs on the sand, and wow, we thought we'd missed the light, to be honest. We went to the main bit of the beach where I sort of scouted it out yesterday and found some great spots down there, but when we went down there this morning, all of the ice had melted and there wasn't much ice actually on the beach, so we actually crossed the bridge and came to the other side. So to keep a bit of an eye on the camera for the moment because the sea keeps coming up, I don't want it to get too close. But just look at the light we're having, it's absolutely stunning, it's absolutely amazing. So yeah, I'm gonna just sort of see if I can fire off some images. I've got the first one which caught my eye, which I really like the look of, was this one here. We have this really nice clear ice, and it's actually just starting to drizzle a bit now as well, so yeah, a little bit frantic at the moment because I really want to catch this light whilst it's so amazing. So I'm going to see if I can take some images. I'll see if I can get one of this iceberg, and then I might see if I can have a little bit of a wander around and see what else we can find. So actually, before coming to this beach, I had thought that the obvious thing to do would be to use a 10-stop filter and blur out the movement of the water. But what I actually opted for initially was just using the polarizer on there, because as you can see behind me, the water is so kind of violent and angry. It's nice to have some of that in the background. So I tried a couple of shots without the 10-stop filter, just to try and have some of that sort of angry water going on in the background. But after I'd taken a few of those shots, I then switched to using a 10-stop filter, and I'm also using an ND grad because the sky is now quite bright as the sun's come through the clouds. So I've had to put that ND grad on there just to darken the sky down for the 10-stop filter exposure. The other thing I've done is I've dropped the camera down really low, so I don't know if you can see this here, but I've got the tripod legs spread right out. And the reason for that is because I like that kind of angle of the ice. This lump of ice I've got here, this little kind of horn sticking up from it. I thought it actually looked quite nice. I took a couple of images with the camera just a little bit higher because you had sort of 3 lumps of ice in the image, but then I've tried dropping it down lower. And yeah, I think that works quite well. So I think that's been quite a successful morning actually. At one stage it didn't look like we were going to get any light down here on the beach, and I sort of resigned myself to maybe having to either come back tomorrow morning or if not this evening to try and catch it when the conditions were a little bit better. But then we noticed that there was more ice on the beach up here, so we drove over to this part of the beach, and as we were driving over, the light suddenly burst through the clouds, and we had to kind of half run over to the beach here and catch it whilst it was good. So I'm quite pleased with some of the images that I managed to take. So what we're going to do now is head back to our hotel. I think have a bit of a quiet time for a few hours, and hopefully this evening we're planning to head to another glacier. The following morning the conditions were looking really good for a decent sunrise, so I decided to head back to the beach on my own to see if I could get another couple of images. I didn't manage to record any video, but I did take these last two pictures.